And we are on. Hello and welcome to Sports Unhinged. I am Mo and I'm joined by Ujitha and Coach. And boy, am I looking forward to this episode. How about my Carolina
Dallas?
Panthers?
Oh, okay.
Carolina, here we are.
All
This
right.
is a team that
Houston.
fired their head coach.
Oh, wait, no.
Got rid of their starting quarterback. Traded
Indianapolis.
their best offensive player. And here we are, talking about the possibility of reaching the playoffs. Coach,
You are right. No, they cut Baker Mayfield. They didn't trade
No,
him.
wait,
no.
Coach said something last week.
best
Let's go back to
offensive
that.
player. Huh?
Coach said something
Coach.
last week.
I think
Go back
I
to
have a
this.
quote from you last week. You said that I don't know why Carolina won't run the ball. I don't think they'll run the ball this time. I'm taking Detroit and the under. How wrong were you, Coach? What did you think of the game last week?
Well, I was on the right track saying I don't know why they don't run the ball because their offensive line is geared to run the ball. They've got a two-headed monster in their running back core.
Dante Freeman, Chuba Hubbard. Yeah.
They finally made a decision. I was reading an article, I think it was Peter King, who interviewed the coach after the win, and he said, listen, we're not sexy. Our job, as I told the offensive coordinator, Mr. McAdoo, listen, let's do what we do best, line up, run the ball. We lose, we lose. Otherwise, we win. And man, oh man, was I wrong. I have no problem admitting I was wrong, but I was on the right track. And good for Carolina. No kidding.
Say you were wrong.
Good for them.
240 rushing yards in the first half alone, 320 yards in total. I think it was an all-round amazing performance. They went back to the formula. I did say it last week. Get back to the running game and, you'll get in. And now they're up against Tampa Bay, who barely beat the worst defense in the NFL and the Arizona Cardinals in overtime. Coach, as we look forward to the game, this is the summit. This is it, I mean, what better way for Carolina to turn a season like that around and go up against the GOAT to try and get into the playoffs? How do you see this? I think Tampa opened at -5.5 favorites for this game.
Yeah, it's dropped all the way down to 4.5. I can feel you drinking the Kool-Aid. I can feel you oozing Carolina.
You have to enjoy these moments, right? I mean, they don't come around very often.
I find it interesting, the GOAT, as we call him, Mr. Brady. He said in his press conference, listen, we're not playing great. We're not playing well. But what can you ask for? We have a season ending for the championship to get into the playoffs next week, which is against your Carolina Panthers this week. We'll see. First of all, Tampa can't stop the run either, right?
Yes, they got no Vita Vea's out, so that's the only hope.
I can't wait for them to just line up 6 across, a tight end in the slot, and off we go, and let's see. What I hope Carolina does is at least get out to 2 scores.
Yeah.
Because if you get it close at the end and you get it to almost overtime with 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, I don't think you want that because the guy does what he does and he does it well. He did it against Arizona. He did it the week before that. So
They did it with the Saints.
yeah. So at the end of the day, I want Carolina to win. I do like it. I like Steve Wilkes. The more I read about him, the more his players say about him. He's not flashy. He's very calm. If you watch a few of his press conferences after games, he's very matter of fact. He's not even Bill Belichick-ish. Like he's not off-putting, but he's not other things, right? So flashy and doing the things. He's just very. I know my team. I know what we do well, and we're going to keep doing that well. So I'm a big fan of his. I'm growing to like him, and then in retrospect. Go Carolina! Off we go, Carolina.
Keep pounding now. Week 7, we beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 21-3. What would you do in this case? Do we go for the running game? They know we're coming with the run, or do we try to change our identity and throw the ball? Because that's what I'm really worried about. That if the coach says now they know the blueprint, they know that we're coming at you, we're going to run the ball, so let's start throwing the ball. And we forget that Tampa Bay has the 3rd or 4th best secondary in the NFL in terms of points allowed, and Sam Darnold is not exactly the best thrower of the ball. So what do you think we should do? you know we're coming at you. We'll see who wins on the ground.
Look, it's interesting that you brought that up. I mean, you and I watched it. We held hands and watched this game against Detroit the other night. Yeah, we
I don't know about the holding hands part, but yeah, we watched it together.
Don't deny what's right. Listen, yeah, I mean, do you remember that at one point we saw that 3 wide receiver set, and we kind of got blindsided ourselves with that.
Yes.
So, and I went and looked at the highlights of this game again. This run game, as much as yards they picked up, it wasn't about domination of the line. They actually had really good design runs, and Sam Darnold had RPOs, play actions, and he was doing all that kind of stuff. So when you say, is Tampa going to be ready for that and then try to stop the run? I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah. I think you guys are, you're in the zone where it comes to those run game designs, and I don't think it makes a difference. Plus, you have your defense, which is definitely going to put so much pressure on Tom Brady. He doesn't like that pressure. They're going to rush him all over the place. So I do not think you have to change the game structure form in any way.
In any way.
On the
I
ball,
agree.
Get the defense, you're going to get it done.
Now, Coach, watching the Tampa Bay Arizona game. Now, Tampa Bay have the worst defense in the NFL, right? And Arizona have the worst defense in the NFL. And Tampa Bay really, really struggled against them. It was a last kind of game-tying drive for Tom Brady, and then they took it to overtime, and they managed to win it there. Usually, we are seeing that Tampa, their defense is what keeps them in the game long enough for Tom Brady to be able to have that one play and just edge out a win. How do you see this game turning out? Like, I know it's not one of our pick 6 games, but give us your prediction in terms of, is it going to be a big win for Carolina? Is it going to be a close game? Is it going to come down to a field goal? How do you see it turning out?
I find it interesting that our esteemed colleague, Mr. Ujitha, said, in Tampa, there's a lot of aged personnel. And I think he's right. You're in week 17, right? So they've played 16 games now, or 15 games now. And that wears on a body that's 35, 36, 37. It wears on a body that's 25, 26, 27, but much more on that roster. I did some research. Actually, I didn't, but someone who works for me did. And they're the 3rd oldest roster by starters.
Oh, yeah.
In the NFL. And so
even Evans.
Wearing, and I can see it, and you can see it, and you can watch it. Even against Arizona, where I don't think Arizona's very good. They don't have their starting quarterback. They were missing 3 of their 5 offensive linemen. They were missing 2 of their 4 starters in the secondary. And they were still struggling. Now they found a way to win. So we'll talk about this, I think, in a second. But I don't think you want that at the end of the game. You don't want to give that opportunity. Do I see a blowout? No. Right? I see a grinded out, running the football, time of possession.
Yeah.
However, I can very much see. And I hope, because it's so demoralizing, and I've been on the receiving end of this, by the way, back in my days as a coach. It's so demoralizing. And I was the defensive coordinator when a team just says, listen, you've seen 4 films of us. We're just going to line it up. This is what we're going to do. And if you stop it, good for you, but you can't. And we know you can't. And you know you can't. And we know you can't. And we couldn't. And by going in at halftime, I can't even describe how I felt crawling out of the press box, because I was always in the press box crawling down. Yeah. And even Coach Baker would say, Coach B, you okay? And I'm like, no. It's just so demoralizing. And I think that's what Carolina they did it to Detroit.
Yes.
I think that's what you'll see. I don't know if it will be high scoring. I don't know if it will be an over type game. But I can see it, Tampa just being, and you watch them walk in at halftime, and their shoulders are down and their heads are down, and they need a deep breath. I hope that's what happens.
I really do. And speaking of aging personnel, we signed Josh Norman back to the team because we lost J.C. Horn.
Coffee shop? He's like the coffee king.
And he's like, yeah, I was working as a barista in a coffee shop, and you guys pulled me out of there. So because we lost JC Horn for I think for the season with an elbow, I think elbow or wrist injury. So he's out now. Coach, we've covered this topic in the last couple of weeks, right? Whoever wins the South ends. And by the way, here's an unbelievable statistic. We're in week 17 of the season, and no one in the South, AFC or NFC, has a winning record. Can you believe that? I mean, it's unbelievable.
You can.
Really bad teams all around. But what I was saying is that we covered the topic of who plays the Cowboys, right? The winner of the South ends up playing the Cowboys. And yes, Tampa have the record against the Cowboys in the playoffs, etc. But seeing what you saw last week, does that change how you look at it? Do the Cowboys prefer to play Tampa than the Panthers? We kind of laughed and scoffed at this.
and even if you watched a little bit of last night's game, even without Derrick Henry, they still struggled to stop the run last night.
Yes.
Now, not so much in the end of third, beginning fourth quarter. But that first half, they were really struggling against the run. So I think they want no part of a solid running game coming in with momentum into the playoffs. I think they'll take their chances against Tom Brady. What do we call it? Aged personnel. I think they would much prefer to play Tampa. I think as the 5 seed, and they're a good 5 seed, don't get me wrong. I think they want no part of the mighty Mo or momentum coming into the playoffs with a team that can run the ball and demoralize you up front. With that being said, I think they would very much like to play Tampa because they recognize, listen, up front, we can't stop the run. We know we have some injuries in the back end. We don't want the opportunity to have to stop the run. The screen game has been very good also. So, yeah, I think they want all of Tampa and none of Carolina.
None of Carolina. All right, let's switch topics.
Hold on. I can't believe I'm saying that in week 17. They don't want any part of Carolina.
I know, right? I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Tables have turned.
Off we get.
You can see the Carolina colors have come back. You know, like
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, baby.
Raise the banner. Raise the banner.
We'll all be watching, that's for sure.
Listen, this is where it could go wrong for Carolina, not getting too
overwhelmed
by the situation.
Negative Nancy, here she comes.
Yeah, I'm Nancy all way. You don't want to get too overwhelmed. You don't want to go all the way, try to beat Tampa, get the first division win, and then go to the playoffs. Yeah, you don't want to get too crazy.
No, because I think we still need to win next week as well against the Saints.
We need
to win both, right? So we need to win throughout, if Arizona managed to beat Tampa, it might have been a different discussion this week, but we saw what happened. All right, now let's transition over to your team, Ujitha, the Philadelphia Eagles. They fell to the Cowboys 40-34 defeat. We did say last week that if they lose to the Cowboys, then Jalen Hurts is the MVP because it shows the value that he brings to the team. They were still able to put up 34 points. The question right now is, do you play him? Do you not play him? I mean, looking at Minnesota, they beat the Giants last week. They're at 12-3. So one game behind you guys. Do you play Jalen Hurts? I'm guessing he's going to want to play because he doesn't want to hurt his MVP chances. But looking at the big picture, Philadelphia Eagle fan, what do you say?
It's a really tough question. It is I've gone back and forth with this. And look, looking at last week, without Jalen Hurts, the offense did enough. Gardner Minshew did enough, and it really showed that the offense can still manage. There were some mistakes, some turnovers, but they can still manage even if Jalen Hurts is out for a week. So, it's really tough because we need the one win. We need Minnesota, and I'm actually banking on Minnesota losing to Green Bay this week. I am.
Oh, all of a sudden you guys believe in Green Bay.
I am. I believe in the bad man.
Don't say you guys. No, you guys.
I believe in the bad man. Listen, Minnesota was
what top, a change bottom of tune, you guys. I mean, you paid for it in the pick six. We'll talk about that in a bit. But all of a sudden, you believe in the bad man.
I have to bank on it. I do not want Jalen Hurts to play because we don't want to exasperate that injury going into the playoffs. But I have to bank on Minnesota's got bottom 5 defense, and Green Bay is really coming on offense, and they're starting to get some rhythm with Christian Watson, Aaron Jones. So yeah, I'm banking on that. But
it's a must-win for them. I mean, if they win against Minnesota, they're in the playoff mix all of a sudden.
And I really think they have it in, because Minnesota, they haven't got a great run game. The only thing is they come back in games. They have Justin Jefferson. So I think Green Bay has got some momentum. Watch out for them coming into the playoffs. I'll tell you that. But listen, going back to Jalen Hurts. So
right,
I personally wouldn't want to see him play. But I know there's a lot of Eagles fans who would like to see him get that one win, get the first seed secured. But I'm more worried on the defense.
40 points against the Cowboys. I mean, that was a lot.
Exactly. Well, there were several things that happened there. One of the things was they kind of changed up the scheme there. We used to play 4-man rush. Now suddenly, because there was an issue with the run defense, they played a lot of 5-man fronts. And that hurt them with a guy like Dak Prescott. He was able to hit CD. He was able to tie. So that's something. And a lot of laid down giveaways. 3rd and 4th down was like 60%. And that it looks really tough to watch. It's tough to watch that. So Saints, not offensively, not consistent. So I think the defense can do enough to win that Saints game and have Gardner Minshew just game manage the offense. Just get the pass through, get the run game going, and win that game. And then if we lose the Saints game, maybe have Jalen Hurts come and play the Giants game in Week 18. So for me, I like to see Hurts maybe sit out this one, because we don't want him to go to playoff with him handicapped as much.
Right.
So yeah, the defense, man, Jonathan Gannon has to bring it.
They have to bring it. Coach, do you agree?
No.
You say play him.
I think if you play him this week, I think him playing, even if he's able to throw the 6 to 10 yard pass, not the deep threat, right? I think you win the football game. And then you get Week 18 and the bye week, right? So that gives him that extra time going into the playoffs. There's not as much rust potential. So again, I'm just thinking from not a personal standpoint. This is a coaching point of view. I think you play to win this week. As we say, you play to win the game. And I think that also accomplishes what Ujitha is talking about. It accomplishes that rest, that opportunity to get him healthy. I think they can win the game this week with him at 60%. And I think then that gives you that deep breath of 2 weeks in a row with the opportunity to get him healthy, get him some break. Now, that's only my point of view as a former coach. If I'm a fan, I say, what can I do to win the Super Bowl?
Right.
If I'm a coach, I say, what can I do to win this week? And then we'll worry about the week after next week.
All right.
It doesn't matter, because Green Bay is going to beat Minnesota, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Well, there is no respect for Minnesota anywhere in the world. Is there? Vegas, there's no respect. This wonderful podcast with however many viewers we have, nobody respects Minnesota.
We haven't all year, and yet they're 13 and 12 and 3, I think.
Keep winning. Just keep winning.
They keep finding a way, but that's probably going to stop.
All right. Well,
to win.
11-0 in one-score games.
11-0 in one-score games. That was the difference last year, right? They were losing a lot of the close games. So 11-0 in
so they fixed one thing, yeah.
All right. Now, one team that has not been able to win is the Denver Broncos, who just fired their head coach.
Exactly. We were going to talk about Houston.
We should have a full segment on the Denver Broncos.
Well, yes. We'll find a way of bringing Houston into this discussion, because Nathaniel Hackett just got hacked or sacked.
Nice.
So I think
played.
The first question, Coach, is who do you think was holding who back there in Denver? Was it Russell Wilson, or was it the coach?
I've read a lot about how they've just so empowered Russell Wilson to be above the team. He has his own office. Own offensive meetings outside the coaches. That's not team building. I don't know if Hackett made those decisions. Knowing a little bit about him and his father, I would say probably not. That decision was made above him.
Yeah.
But But I think that's what had the detriment of the team atmosphere. That's why you see some of the things happening on the sidelines of geared directly to him, not toward the offense in general, but just to him. Unfortunately, I like Hackett. I think he's done some pretty solid things in the last 3, 4, 5 years in the NFL. I've never been a big fan of Russell Wilson, even though I was all up in drinking the Kool-Aid before in our first podcast when we were making predictions. I thought, listen, I think he's got a good place. And my goodness, how predictive was Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks understanding it's not just this, it's So,
GM of the year in Seattle, I say,
maybe,
I mean, the value that he got out of the
holy
Wilson trade.
cow.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would never put any team member that far above the team in itself, which I think they've done. So I think it might even be equal. I applaud Russell Wilson coming out to say, listen, I wish I had played better for Paul Hackett. For Nathaniel Hackett, but at the same time, I read a statement about Hackett saying, "We've made mistakes. I have learned so much, so I look forward to my next head coaching opportunity on the mistakes that I won't make again." Listen, at the end of the day, when you can't throw the rock around the field, you're not going to win very many games.
Yeah. Now, who's next? Lovie Smith. And this is how I'm bringing Houston into the conversation.
That's the Houston take.
There's a lot of money coming out of that ownership group. A lot of money.
Okay. Right.
So they are the most wealthy ownership group in all of the NFL. Number one.
Okay.
Sean Payton. Mm-hmm. Right. I can see that happening. He said, I want the quarterback. Now, there was an article last week where Vic Fangio is going to be his defensive coordinator. Okay. Not sure that's a good fit with him coming back, but he can have the pick of the litter. Dan Quinn, I think, was a finalist for that job, the Cowboys defensive coordinator. Yep. I think he interviewed very well. Patton and he worked together when Patton was an assistant back in the Atlanta days when Quinn was the head coach. So there's that connection. I still think they need, I don't want to say a quarterback whisperer, but someone that, I think we said it last week, someone who can put the quarterback in position to make the plays that he's capable of. Right. Look at what they've done with Baker Mayfield in LA.
Oh, wow. 51 points, hey?
They haven't asked him to do silly, stupid things. They've asked him to do the things that they know he can do. And look how well he's done, other than a few hiccups. Not last week, but the week before. I think that's the people that come into Denver. I have to be honest. I don't know who it will be. I do not think it'll be Lovie Smith. I don't think he's leaving.
All right. Ujitha, who else is on the hot seat for you in terms of head coaches?
Oh, definitely Cliff K, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was in the hot seat before the season started last year. And then, they went on a winning run, 7-0.
7-0, but ended it with 11-6 at the end.
Exactly. And then blown out in the playoffs. And now they're, I think, in the last 18 games, they're 13-5. And then now he's had the issue with Kyler Murray all season. So, it's not looking good for him. I think they lost to the Broncos, one of the few teams to lose to the Broncos. So, and you make J.J. Watt, they played he retires. I think we're going to talk about it later. So if you make J.J. Watt retire, you got to go.
Yeah.
Right? Cliff Kingsbury for sure. And I want to say Jeff Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't make a contract.
Yeah.
All right.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, what is he, 1-5 now that he had that the one win as soon as he came on and that's been it.
Yeah. And that's it. Now, you mentioned J.J. Watt. Coach, as you reflect on J.J. Watt's career, do you see him as a first ballot Hall of Famer in a few years' time?
Well, when you mention your name with other Hall of Famers, right? I think he probably is a first ballot. He was fabulous for our franchise in Houston. The things that he did, he's he and Aaron Donald and that guy from the New York Giants way back in the day, who might be the best outside linebacker ever. They're mentioned in 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, only once to win it.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So I think that's important. I also think he's top 3 in sacks all time, right? So, and he's just a freaking good guy. Yeah. He's a team player. He says the right things. He does the right things.
A good role model.
Yeah, he is. He knows when to keep his mouth shut and play football, and then he knows when to speak up and say the right things when he needs to. I mean, even way back when we did Hurricane Katrina in Houston, he stepped up with being the leader, multi-million-dollar donations, being the person who's right at the end of the truck, loading water. How do you not get better than that, right? And that's using your platform to better people. So I think he still has his house in Houston, as I read this week. They're going to retire his wife and kid. They still actually live in Houston.
Yeah.
He travels back and forth. So what a great young man. I say young man, he's in his 30s. So I hope he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I can't see him not. And what a great football player.
I'd like to see him as an analyst. I think he's got the charisma to make some good TV. Maybe join the Manning brothers or something. It'll be nice to see him on TV.
Oh,
as well.
How good would that be?
Manning and Watts.
Yeah.
Can you imagine him on Dan Campbell's staff in Detroit, maybe as a coach?
Ooh,
wow.
Yeah, that's another one. Wow.
How
All right.
awesome would that be?
Oh.
Safe to say the future is still bright for JJ Watt.
And listen, it's good if you're going out now with that legacy. Yeah, not he did something else and he tried to come back, didn't work out, go somewhere.
Right.
I think it's good to go out on this legacy.
Yeah, and I agree with Ujitha. I think there is a reason that he didn't announce that to the coaching staff. He did it on his own validity. And so that might say a little something behind the scenes of the coaching staff, soon to be former coaching staff in Arizona.
Yeah. All right. Now, Houston, do they play upset maker role again this week against the Jags? They did it against Tennessee, and we've seen a flip in the AFC South. Do you think they can pull it off against the Jags?
They played pretty well against these last 2 years. They played pretty well against Jacksonville. There's not been any blowouts on one side or the other. I won't go so far as to say they'll upset them like they did Tennessee. I don't know that the stars align exactly. And I really like Jacksonville's play calling and that head coach and what he's doing. But I wouldn't be surprised if it happened.
All right. Now, before we go to the Pick 6 segment, Ujitha, one last question. There's Miami, New England this week. Huge implications for that 7th seed. Tua, another concussion that Miami failed to pick up. They put him back on the field again. At this point, if you were, Tua's family, friends, anybody that's around him, do you have that discussion about him calling it a career? I mean, this is like the 3rd concussion in a year, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, you're prone to this. And then it seems like your franchise or whoever doesn't really take the time to care about it. Then you have to wonder, is it time to hang up those boots? I mean, I feel really bad. There's a lot of bad stuff that's happened to Tua over the last couple of years.
He's a good quarterback. I mean, he's one of those that has had his, stocks rising this year.
And he talked a lot of bad stuff about him before the season started. And, look where he's taken Miami during the season. He's used Tyreek Hill really well. So he's got a lot of good stuff. But, and then Miami still has the chance to make the playoffs. So I don't know. Where do they go from here with him?
But wouldn't this be typical Bill Belichick, right? Something somewhere happens. He plays a game. If they end up beating Miami,
I have
some way he makes it into the playoffs, right?
Zero confidence in that offense and that play calling system there at the moment. Completely. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Yeah, there's no communication. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Not this year.
Coach, I have a suspicion that you disagree.
I disagree.
I love it when we're not on the same page.
I just, first of all, I don't think Miami's very good without Tua.
Yeah.
And even if you look at the 4th quarter where as it turned out, he did have a concussion at the end of the 3rd. That's at the moment he stopped throwing the ball well, picking receivers well. I think Ujitha pointed out in our quick chat, planning for today, it was very obvious he was a different person, not a
completely.
Yeah.
just a different, his viewpoint, what he's looking at, and he's done so well at 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 throw, 1, 2, 3 throw.
Yeah.
He just couldn't get it in the fourth quarter, so I was shocked, but I wasn't surprised after I read it and saw it. In terms of Bill Belichick, man, there's just something about him being able to coach up at the right time, at the right place, at the right part of the season, where he'll sneak into the playoffs. I don't know if they'll win a game, or any for that matter. We'll see. I think they'll beat Miami. I don't know how big. I don't know point spread. I don't know. I just don't think the backup quarterback for Miami is very good. I like the guy, actually, but I just don't think he's there. And I think, can I say Mac Jones makes just enough to win the football game? Good Lord.
You cannot.
24-22. 24-22 New England, the close game.
Hold on, is this recording? Is this a recording? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I do. I think they sneak into the playoffs. I do.
For those who watch Red Zone, I feel that last week and this week are the witching hour. That point in the game where wins become losses, losses become wins. That's the point of the season where we're at, right? Where things are flipping around last minute. We've seen that in the AFC South, possibly in the NFC South this week as well. And we're looking at it in Miami as well, and New England.
Yeah,
all right.
I can't disagree. Now, the good part is when we get to the witching hour, I hold hands with my wife. Evidently, you guys held hands at some point in the witching hour.
He just happened to be around in the
area
last week.
Once a week.
I wasn't there.
We've agreed. Right. We've agreed once a week, no matter what.
Once a week, Ujitha. I'll see you here on Sunday. All right. Let's move on.
Can't wait.
Let's move on to my favorite segment here, the Pick Six segment.
Favorite segment just this week. Just this week. Welcome to the big time, Mo.
You guys know the rules. 3 games every week. We pick against the spread. We pick against the over/under. 1 point for each correct pick. 2 points if you beat Coach. And I would like to start by saying thank you, Aaron Rodgers. Thank you, Carolina. Thank you, Coach, for picking Miami in the over and Detroit in the under. And thank you, Ujitha, for going along with Coach. I got a boatload of points, 8-1 for the week. I think this is the biggest difference in
league
point
record
differential that we've had in the Pick Six segment since we started it. I went from being behind by 4 points, 53 to 57, and now I have
back no cover
the lead.
Front door. Yeah.
61.
Listen, I've got to say you're welcome. Feel free to take that money and just slide it behind, and I'll take it as you need.
61-58. Coach, you'll get your reward at the end if things work out. So
I'm having a double cheeseburger. That's all I can say because I'll be there. All right,
let's do it. All right, game number 1. And Coach, I was a bit surprised at the choice of games that you had this week. But let's go to game number 1.
Just this week?
San Francisco 49ers against the Las Vegas Raiders. What are the odds here?
So I did my best to pick games that meant absolutely
nothing.
Just to get your guys thinking outside playoffs. The 49ers, hello, Sam, minus 10.5 and over under 41.5. Get us started, Muhammad.
I think this is where the trickery starts, right? So I'm not even looking at the game. I'm looking at the spread here, 10.5 points. We all know that San Francisco are very likely to win the game, but I just see that 10.5 as a little bit too much. I'm going for 2016, San Francisco, a closer game. Maybe it could go up to like a 7-point difference by 1 touchdown. So I'm going to go with the Raiders covering and the under. The Raiders not winning, but covering and the under. Ujitha.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. San Fran is not probably the best team in football right now in the second half of the season. And the Raiders, Josh McDaniels, that offense, I don't know what's happening there. So I'm actually going to go. They benched Carr. Well, that's got something to do with a bit of money as well. Some guaranteed stuff if he gets injured. But 8 straight wins. I don't see San Fran. They're trying to make seed 2 here as well. So I think they're going to go all the way 30-14.
Oh,
30-14. All right.
still over. All right. I find it interesting that not only have they benched Carr has left the building.
Oh yeah, they don't want him anywhere. They don't want him anywhere there.
Not even practicing. He's gone. He's like,
wow.
I
Okay.
don't want to be a distraction. Which I find interesting with the best, what I would call the best wide receiver in football. What will that affect him? So because of that, I'll take the under. What I'm not sure about is that 10.5. It's kind of like that 6.5, 7, 7.5, that 10-point number, 10.5. I like the Raiders to cover that 10.5.
No.
I still think they'll lose. I think, if they lose by 9, is that a blowout? So I think they'll lose the game, but they'll cover the 10.5. And I think it will be under because the offense is in their performance.
I was making my picks on the assumption, Coach, that you're going to go San Francisco, and I was like kind of weighing things. If I get it wrong, Ujitha gets 1 point. Now you're giving him a double point advantage.
You know what happens when you assume, Mohammed? When you assume.
Yes.
And when you don't slide that money on the back.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to game number 2. The Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs, Coach. What are the odds?
Again, a game that means nothing for anyone other than there's no head coach or former head coach in Denver. Here we go again. The Chiefs are minus 12.5 in this game with an over under 45. They're at Kansas City. Ujitha, get us started.
Okay. Listen here. Well, Kansas City going to win this game, though. Okay. But it's one of those games, right? And even though the Chiefs are playing at some elite level, they tend to make these mistakes that brings teams back. I mean, they did it with Indy, if you remember. I think even with Denver last time they played. Right. So even though Denver is nothing to talk about, I'm still going to have them cover this game at that. 27-16. I will keep it on the under.
So you have Denver covering.
I have Denver. Casey's going to win, but Denver's going to cover because Mahomes going to make some mistakes. He made some mistakes last week as well.
Yeah.
He didn't make passes, drop catches. Yeah, that's what's going to happen here.
The psychological games. I mean,
give me Casey. Take Casey, yo.
No, see, this is the thing. Like, I even have it on my notes here. I can show you, right? There are 2 things that Coach has always told me, right? Don't bet double-digit odds. So that's 12.5.
Hey, you've been coaching him, damn.
No. This is like from years ago, right? And also, one thing that Coach has mentioned on this podcast many times in the past is when a team has their head coach fired, they tend to bounce back the week after. So I'm not getting delusional here. KC are still going to win the game, but I have Denver covering as well on the notes, and I was kind of nervous about that. So I have Denver covering and the under. So, Coach, he's cracking up because he got us overthinking everything.
We got nothing to play for.
First of all, I love it that I've picked games to make you think, not just go, oh yes, this, or oh yes.
No, but the funny thing is that we've researched nothing about the game, right? It's all about the mind games here. That's how we're making our picks.
That's what's fabulous.
Especially the next one coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, the next one makes me laugh. I'll give you one here. I think the Chiefs blow them out. I know coaches often or teams often bounce back and play well to prove that their worth has nothing to do with the coach getting fired because they might need a job next year or they might be free agents or whatever. But I think Kansas City plays well at home. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a little bit snowy. I think they blow Denver out, completely out. But I still like the under. So I think they'll cover the 12.5. But I like the under. I just can't see Denver scoring points.
I know.
I just can't do it. As much as I agree with Mohammed, never bet the double digits, and I would never, ever bet this game.
Right.
Never. Yeah. All right. So last game.
Arizona at Atlanta. Another inconsequential game.
Completely unnecessary.
Coach, what are the odds?
All right, so we've got Arizona at Atlanta. The Falcons are minus 3.5, 3.5. The over under 42. Mohammed, take us home.
All right. I watched the Arizona game last week against Tampa Bay. That's a very bad team, right? I think regardless whether Kyler Murray is playing or not, it doesn't seem to make a difference. The worst defense in the NFL. Atlanta seemed to have a good game here or there. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, a very close game. 17-13 Atlanta. Atlanta barely covers by half a point. And we get the under. Ujitha.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go Arizona to cover. Did you say 3.5? Is
Yes.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go 2017 with Atlanta winning the under, but Arizona to cover.
All right.
Wow,
Yeah,
both of
because
you are under.
com-
That's interesting.
Completely unnecessary game. Both are shit.
All right, coach.
I like the under in this game, and again, I just like picking games to make you guys think, not, oh well, let me tell you what I know about this team.
Yeah, well, we've got one more after this, so you get one more chance at driving us crazy.
Redemption.
Look,
Yeah.
I think it's under no matter what. I
Yeah.
don't see either of these offenses being any good. Either of these quarterbacks, just like in the Raiders, the Atlanta quarterback, he got benched. He left the team and then said, oh, well, I'm having knee surgery. So I like the under in the game. The 3.5, again, it's that half a point over a field goal or that half a point over a touchdown.
Right.
I will go I'll go Atlanta to cover.
Ah, damn.
Yeah, I just Arizona just got nothing.
You picked Arizona. You get a double pointed possibility.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, all right.
I'm
yeah.
the one who
All
should
right.
be saying damn. Yeah.
Thank you for pointing it out. Yes.
Yeah, so I'll go Atlanta to cover just by maybe a half a point or 1.5 points, but definitely the under with everybody.
It's gonna
All
be
right.
a good week 18, man. That I'll tell you. On the pick 6 at least.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and the week 18.
I
next one is
could
gonna come
set
down
up
to
for
it,
a
right?
good
Next
week
one.
18.
Yeah.
You better pick some good games then, coach. All right, let's wrap it up with the tiebreaker, which we obviously don't need. But Chicago at Detroit. Do you see Detroit bouncing back after that bad loss against Carolina?
Well, I'm not sure. The lines are 6 and the over-under is 52. What? That seems like a very high number. Listen, Chicago can run the football with their quarterback, with their running backs, with their offensive line. Now, part of me thinks that was a wake-up call for Detroit on stopping the run. So I like Detroit to cover this -6. They're still trying to get in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But 52, I don't think there's any way together they score 52. So I think personally, I like Detroit to cover, but an under.
All right, Ujitha.
But actually, I think Fields gonna have some run going on. I mean, the Lions defense isn't great, and I actually think Chicago will cover. Is playing for pride in the division, so Chicago covers.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
you've got, Carolina potentially ruined a very good story that everybody was following throughout the season in Detroit. But hey, we might have just started a even better story for Carolina themselves, right?
Starts with Carolina, ends with Carolina.
Let's
Drinking
see.
the Kool-Aid. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's see. All right. On that note, let's wrap this episode up. This has been another amazing episode of Sports Unhinged. Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Ujitha. Make sure you
Thank you,
follow,
everybody.
subscribe, comment, and share, and we'll see you guys next week.
Nicely done, team.
See you guys.
See ya.